Right, there's time-lapse, and then there's motion time-lapse, and then there's hyperlapse as well. Hyperlapse is that the camera like moving with the time-lapse, like you're traveling through time.
In this video, I walk you through making all these hyperlapse with gimbal that everyone can do from start to finish, settings A to Z, and 101 alike.
So in my video, I have done time-lapse, I have done motion time-lapse because they are not that difficult to do, and then the result is quite amazing. But hyperlapse, I have never done hyperlapse because the traditional way to doing hyperlapse is really time-consuming. Using a tripod or a monopod, you just spend like hour, and then it's really tiring.
If you search for hyperlapse on YouTube, you will probably encounter this video. The traditional method of doing hyperlapse is really boring. You have to do one frame at a time, step by step, literally.
But now, technology, you have gimbal to do hyperlapse. It's much more easier, and I think I would actually do hyperlapse finally with. Now this video is sponsored by Manfrotto, so this is a Manfrotto Gimbal 220. Doesn't matter, we are not talking about this gimbal, we are here to talk about hyperlapse. Although you need a good gimbal, and this is a good one. So yeah, let's do it.
Almost forgot you need a camera as well. Usually Nikon and Panasonic camera has built-in interval shooting or time-lapse feature built in. But if you have some older Canon or Sony camera, you may need to buy a remote timer thing.
Now these days, a lot of gimbal got this kind of lock. You see it locked in place. Before that, a lot of gimbal, just when you're carrying it, it's just flopping around. Start from balancing it because it got locked, as I mentioned, so it's much more easier. You just unlock the only axis you are going to balance it.
I'm not going to go in detail of how to balance a gimbal here, so let's jump to the time-lapse shooting.
So everything is ready, unlock all the access, and this one, and turn off the gimbal. What I'm going to do is take a hyperlapse. Of course, I'm taking hyperlapse. Take a hyperlapse of that clock tower. This hyperlapse, I would just use the pan mode. So it only follow my pan. Now what I'm going to do is keeping the center. I have a crosshair, keeping the center at the clock tower as much as I can. It started, and I would walk pretty slow, very slow actually. I figured out my walking pace for a comfortable hyperlapse, which is 40 meters per minute, but then this stretch I had already checked on Google Maps, it's just 170 meters. So I figured out if I walk to my usual hyperlapse speed, this will be a really short hyperlapse, so I will have to walk even slower.
Now doing hyperlapse, time-lapse, you need some calculation, but actually they are really simple. So the whole length will be 170 meters. And my comfortable hyperlapse speed will be 40 meters per minute. So divide by 40, that means I will take a little bit more than 4 minutes to finish that 170 meters. And because I'm doing 2-second interval, that means every minute I would get 30 shots. So every minute I will get 30 shots. If I do 4 minutes, 4.25 minutes. That means in total, I would get 127 photos. And my finished hyperlapse will be 25 frames per second. 25 frames per second. So divide by 25, that means my finished hyperlapse will be just 5 seconds, which is a little bit too short. That's why I need to walk even slower than my comfortable hyperlapse walking pace.
Now I'm using pan mode. That means that the tilt is locked. It won't tilt up and down. It's just I'm controlling the pan. I'm turning the whole gimbal, so the gimbal is pointing to the clock tower. Actually, I don't think I'm doing a really good job because I'm talking. Now my setting on my camera, I'm using 1/8 seconds. That's I can get some motion blur.
I like to have natural motion blur in my video and in my time-lapse video as well. In this demonstration, with a faster shutter speed, all these cars looks like they're jumping around in the frame, not really moving. To me, this just doesn't look right. Slower shutter speed, motion blur, this just looks right. Maybe there's no absolute right or wrong, but to me, this is right. Another thing is that I will use manual focus and use a deep depth of field, rather than letting the camera to keep refocus every single shot. As you can see here, the green area is that from 2 meters to infinity are all in focus.
I'm not preparing this really well, isn't it? I actually need to tilt up. So I'll cheat a little bit. I've changed to pan and tilt mode, and then slowly panning the whole thing up. The thing is, changing mode is really easy with this gimbal because it got a touch screen here. Rather than a lot of gimbal, you have to remember what kind of button press you have to do and what kind of LED flashing means what kind of gimbal mode. But here, it's on the touch screen, so clear. Okay, almost done. I don't think this is really good. The Panasonic S5 actually got a pretty good feature, is that after you end a time lapse, you can create video on the camera. The good thing is you can check the results right now. Okay, I definitely need to stabilize this later.
The result straight from camera is okay, but it still swing around left and right quite a bit. But doesn't matter, we have post-production to correct this. In Final Cut Pro, that means putting all the shots in the timeline, set the length of each photo to 1 frame, and then export them as a video. Ideally in original resolution and with ProRes to keep the highest quality possible. And import this video into a 4K timeline and then add stabilization and you will get this.
Right, this one should be pretty straightforward because it's going straight. I'm going to use the pan mode. So no, not pan mode, all lock mode. Everything is locked, so it will stick to one direction. It won't move, it won't change direction. Now if I use pan mode, pan mode is probably the most usual mode you will use with a gimbal, which is my arm may pan a little bit without I noticing. So the gimbal might turn a little bit left and right, that's not good for this hyperlapse. So I'm going to, I start in the middle, and I use the crosshair pointing to where I'm going to go, right a little bit. I don't use the joystick because it will move quite a lot, because I want really small movement. Right a bit, okay. So I turn to all lock. Everything is locked, so my action won't affect the gimbal. So I will start shooting.
Okay, just like before, I checked on Google Maps, so this whole length is 475 meters. Now 475 meters divided by 40, which is my walking pace. That means the whole length will be 11 minutes. So 11 minutes times 30 shots per minute. That means in total I would get 330 photos. 330 photos if I make a 25 frames per second hyperlapse divided by 25. That means the finished product will be 13 seconds, which is alright. So this is good.
It's quite tiring. I'm not sure is it because I haven't had lunch. What time is it? I don't even know what time is it. 4:30. It must be 4:30 already. I mean, it's kind of tiring, but it's already so much better than the traditional way of using monopod and tripod. Monopod or tripod. I mean, we've done that before back in digital web. We've done that once and that's enough. That's really tiring. In front, I'm going to switch it to pan mode and adjust the heading. Just heading, adjust, all off. Now as you see, I go from very bright to very dark. This could be a problem. But the Panasonic S5 actually got a really good feature. It's called exposure smoothing, something like that. I forgot now. We'll see how the Panasonic help with this. But if your camera doesn't have that feature, you can basically use auto ISO, and then there are actually programs or plug in that kind of thing to fix that for you. So you will. One thing I used before is LR time-lapse pan mode again. Also, I'm going to slowly pan, really slow, and lock. As you can see, the touch screen is really convenient. Rather than you have to remember triple tap, double tap, which button, which flashing of LED, those are annoying as hell. So, okay, oh my god, oh, this is tiring. This is so tiring. Okay, the video is ready. Okay, that's not bad. Actually, it's good.
This is so perfect. This is straight from the camera. I didn't do any post-production on this at all. The motion is smooth thanks to the gimbal, and the exposure change is smooth as well thanks to camera. This hyperlapse is really so simple. I just hold it and walk the distance, and let the camera create a time-lapse for me. No computer needed. Later that night, I do another hyperlapse at night, and it is also the same, just straight going forward.
Now this bit will be quite interesting. I always like taking photo here, even walk around here. It's a wet market up on the slope. So here I'm going to, because I'm going uphill, so I would want to control the up and down motion as well. I don't want to use the joystick because the movement will be too quick. So I'm going to use tilt and pan mode. But also I'm going to switch between them as well, because lock mode, when I'm already tilted up to what I want, I will now is lock mode. So just ensure it don't do a little bit of pan left and right, tilt up and down. That's what we don't want, obviously. We just want the motion of going forward, like going full time. Back to pan and tilt mode. Look for traffic. So traffic. Good, so I don't have to stop here. Because when I need to stop for traffic, I have to later remove that field shot. Okay, lock mode. Oh, don't come on me, Bratty. Man. Oh, that's a trolley. That's a trolley. Okay, all good. Now this is somewhere that you can't use tripod or monopod to do time-lapse, isn't it? I mean hyperlapse. But you definitely can do it with gimbal. So this is what I'm going to demonstrate. I'm using pan mode. But then when I arrive at here, because I don't want the movement of the ship to affect where it's pointing, so I'm going to point it towards the pier. Lock mode. So now everything is locked. I can even lean a little bit outward. Pan and tilt mode. And then go back out.
This one is much more complicated with a lot of exposure changing, so I use LR time-lapse to smooth out all the exposure changing, smooth out all the white balance changing. I have another video that talks more about this LR time-lapse. You can check out the video from the link on the top right hand corner. And here is the final result. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed this video. This is just another thing that you can do with your gimbal, making hyperlapse more easier to do and make it possible to places that tripod and monopod are not allowed.